Had a GTO come into the shop that needed a lot of work. Safety, mechanical, paint, interior, you name it, it needed something. Instead of letting the car sit in the driveway any longer, Bob brought it to us. Oh man, I know why you said get in this thing. Sit down in that and stuff just comes down on your face. Yeah, it ain't pleasant. Bob's budget on this car will only touch the safety and some reliability things. We're not going to get into any cosmetics.
There it is. Is that a 455? Is that a 400?
It's probably a 400, but the 400 isn't what bothers me. The AC isn't what bothers me. I mean, this was a well-equipped car. Power steering, power brakes, air conditioning, big block. It's got all the right parts on it.
It's the right air cleaner.
It does, but look at the condition.
This thing isn't bad. This thing was kept outside, it looks like.
I was going to say underwater.
I'm not going to argue that.
This would be a nice start point for a project, but this is a project.
It's a big project.
Let's put this up in the air and see if it gets better or worse. So let me tell you what I'm seeing that's good right now, though. Look at this.
They were originally undercoated from the factory.
And that saved them.
That saved this car.
That's the only thing that saved this car.
That's the only thing that's not rusted.
That's
You
what's
notice-
holding it together.
Audrey's always the voice of sunshine and hope.
Somebody has to be realistic. Oh, is that tank
Tank is full of gas.
Oh, I'm sure the gas is good. Come on, what's 20 years between
That's a lot of
friends?
signers.
What is dripping on me? I don't know. I'm scared.
Yeah.
We didn't look in the trunk.
Yeah, we probably should have.
Do you need a starter to start this motor? Or do you... like,
Come on, Chris.
Shouldn't there be something there?
No. Those spare parts, they just add weight to the car.
With the work and stuff, I hadn't been able to keep up with it. And now I'm retiring next week, and I'll be able to keep it up after Dan gets through with it.
I'm all about people doing as much of the work they can themselves. Get your hands dirty, learn how the car works, get from point A to B, and figure out how it actually functions. But there are some things that are better left to a professional, or at least need to be checked by one before you trust your life to the work. It is my opinion that this car, you don't really have a choice. You got to rebuild the brakes. You got to rebuild the steering and suspension. And of course the fuel system. It needs a complete rebuild. And then when we get done with all that, or at least get through enough of that we can fire up that motor, we got to look at the motor, transmission, and differential. You've owned this car since '94, so it's almost 30 years you've had it. Why are we doing this now?
I really and truly love this car. This is the second one I've had bought here locally. And it's a beautiful car, and I'm a fan of the 67 GTO, and I love this car. It is my passion to get this thing back on the road, and it will be passed down to my son.
I'm sure he'd love it. All right.
It took me 15 years to let it sit in my driveway and get it to Dan.
We've gotten this car sort of over that hurdle that they were incapable of sort of bounding over. And at this point, he and his son can sort of spend the weekends on the car, take care of a lot of those cosmetic issues, but they're starting with basically a solid, safe foundation to work with. So I think everybody wins. Hey.
Hey, how you doing, Dan? This is my son, Bob.
Hey, Dan.
Welcome.
Junior.
All right. So it's D-Day, delivery day. It's only been here 2 months.
I'm very happy.
Okay.
I'm very happy. And dependability and functionality is absolute paramount.
You said all, in my opinion, the right things. Because we talked about brakes, we talked about suspension, we talked about rubber, we talked about electrical, steering systems.
Yes, I wanted to key in on the safety issues first. I just want to redo the cosmetics as I go.
If instead of doing all the deferred 50-year maintenance, you had said do a full cosmetic, tear it down, blast it, blow it into a million pieces, restore all the parts and put it back together. Do you have any idea what that would have cost?
I couldn't even imagine how much it would cost.
I would assume 6 figures.
Good 6 figures.
Right.
Yeah. And I work with about 5 shops that are sort of at this level. And they're all in the $250 to $350 range.
Interesting.
To take a muscle car and go through the whole thing. The 67 GTO as it ended was one of my favorite projects because he asked us to get him over the things that he couldn't do so that he and his son could sort of take over the project. And that's really what building a car should be. You don't necessarily know how to do everything yourself, but you should take on everything you can.
Hit it, senior. Here it is.
Awesome. Awesome.
Wow.
Awesome. That's what I want to hear.
Oh, it runs. It's like hearing your baby's heartbeat for the very first time.
If you have a limited budget, limited time, limited expertise, outsource the safety and do the cosmetics yourself. The main mistake I see about budgeting a build is people go out and they buy the cheapest parts they possibly can. Well, unfortunately, cheap parts result in long labor times and usually replacing the part anyway. So the number one rule when you start to budget your build, start with quality parts and you'll end up with a much better quality build.
Now that it's running, right, you can crank on it. You can crank on it in the driveway for a while, and then at the end of the day, you get to enjoy it by taking it around the block. He's got us so that we can enjoy it along the way.
My dreams have come true. That was my lifelong goal, to get this thing running for my son and grandson.